Hello, good evening, everybody. Good evening, my cherished viewers. Welcome to another episode of our EB2-NIW Green Card. But this episode is entitled Proving Intrinsic Merit, National Importance, and also Global Importance. Once again, my name is Daniel Anidiba, and I'm going to walk you through this episode. And please, if you have not subscribed to this channel, I plead with you that you subscribe and share also to your friends. As of now, our statistics shows that 30% out of our viewers have subscribed. So please, if you have not subscribed, please hit the subscription button and subscribe so that you can always get notification whenever we release new episodes. So what are we going to do today? For today, we are going to look at intrinsic merit. But before that, I want us to have a recap of what we did last week. Last week was episode 4A, which was proving advanced degree, which was a fun part. It was very interesting. And like I said last week, with advanced degree, you don't only print your bachelor's degree, your master's degree, or a PhD and just mail it to USCIS. You have to put it in the first chapter. That's a chapter 1. Describe your degree, describe your school. Which kind of school did you go? If you have West evaluation, throw it in there. Explain how the West evaluation equivalent relates to your degree and whatever it is. So that was what we did last week, and it was very informative and very, very interesting. So if you have not gotten the time to watch it or look at it, please, you may want to go to episode 4A, which is Proving Advanced Degree for this channel, and watch those videos and also previous videos to get more understanding from where we started, where we have gotten to, and where we are heading. Now, before I move on to the agenda of today, I want us to take a few minutes to look at some Q&A which came along in the course of the week. For instance, I had one of our viewers saying that can MBBS doctors overseas apply without US MLE exams? Yeah, so I believe that our viewer is asking in relation to the physician national interest waiver. This national interest waiver, there are two types. There are specific ones for physicians, medical doctors. So if you're a medical doctor, according to the USCI, there's a separate application that you guys have to go through. And you know that practicing medicine in the United States is a regulated profession. And as a regulated profession, there's a very special way or requirements that you guys are supposed to meet, which, to be honest, I don't have much information or much knowledge about the physician national interest waiver. But what I would say is that if you are coming to have a direct patient contact or practice as a physician, then probably have to go through that, where you deal with the VA, that's the Veterans Affairs Administration, or the National Department of Health, and get pre-approval or pre-certification for that. And after that, you're supposed to still show that you have made every arrangement to secure your own hospital to practice in deprived areas. So your requirements are quite different from the ordinary national interest waiver. A little advice I can give is that maybe you are a medical doctor, and along this line, you do some research along it. Maybe you are into some research which helps the field of medicine. Maybe you are doing research in oncology, research in physiology, you are researching into radiology, or whatever it is. I would say that probably you may want to stick to that maybe as your pivot profession and use that to enter the US. That's my candid opinion. That may not be directly as a patient or bedside or direct patient contact, but it may be like a support research to support the medical field. If that's what you want to use as your profession, then probably you can go through this route. But if you are coming in as a physician to practice as an MD, medical doctor, then I think you have to go through the VA steps to be able to go to get that kind of national interest waiver green card you are talking about. We have another viewer who is also saying that I'm a Pakistani MPhil scholar in physics from Punjab University, Lahore, Pakistan. I have 3 years, I hope I pronounced that well. If I didn't, please forgive me. I have 3 years of teaching experience and 3 years of experience in research field with 5 research papers published. I also have membership in European Physical Society. I have 5 recommendation letters from professors. I'm fulfilling the criteria of EB2 National Interest Waiver petition. Am I fulfilling the criteria of EB2 National Interest Waiver petition? I-140, please suggest to me, how can I improve my profile? How can I make letterhead or letter of recommendation documents? Yeah, so part of this training, we will be looking at sample letter of recommendation documents, and you will be able to make most of them, some of them, your templates. One thing I can say is that you just mentioned that you are a field scholar in physics. You know, physics is very broad, and whenever you are defining your field of endeavor, I advise that be cautious about being too broad in this field, because when you say physics, what part of physics is it? Thermodynamics? Is it I don't know, like, I don't know how to put it, quantum physics, whatever branch of physics you are in, because physics is very broad. So I don't have enough information from this to be able to search. But whatever it is, I presume that you have a specialized field in the field of physics, which with master's and MPhil, you should be good to go with advanced degree. The only thing is that, say, if your MPhil is gotten from outside the United States, you are going to do what we call the West evaluation. You go through the West evaluation to get your degree evaluated. Plus, you have 3 years of teaching experience, which is very great. 3 years of research experience. Yes, so research, particular field that you research into. What topics are you researching into? What problems are you researching into? So your research field is very important. As we are going to do today, you will know how the person honed into his field in environmental science and use that to file his green card. So that one too, I don't know your exact research area, but I presume that it's a very good and important area which has applicability to the United States. I have also membership in European Physical Society. Yes, having a membership is good. Let me see, you have a membership in that, and if you also can get maybe additional membership in another organization, making at least 2 memberships, that should be good. So that is it. And being a member, one thing, let me chip in this. I think I've read your post somewhere before. If you have membership, people say, oh, ordinary membership will not count. You have to be a member of a prestigious organization. Let me chip in this. You see, every membership in an organization or professional organization is a membership. It doesn't matter whether the membership is worldly known or it is regionally known or is known in the national level. It is a professional organization. But the trick is that when you are filing national interest waiver green card, you don't want to sound like it's a common membership. You have to sell it, okay? Let me exaggerate a bit. You can't even say that this kind of membership is not gotten on a platter, that people have to go through rigorous selection exercise or whatever it is. So you see that you don't want to sound very common. You don't want to sound like, oh, it's a membership that everybody gets. That is why they always say that when it comes to national interest waiver, it depends on how you file it. That is the clue. So you have a membership, that is good. But I saw people saying, well, you need membership in some high profile organization. No, it's not about the organization you have membership from, but it's about how you project that membership to the USCIS officer. That matters. So take note of that. I have 5 recommendation letters for professors. I don't know how you drafted your recommendation letters, but make sure that it's conforming to the standards of recommendation letter for national interest waiver, because such recommendations are different from the kind of recommendations we use for school admissions or you get for your job applications. This type of recommendation requires that even the recommender describe himself in the first paragraph and also come with the way to talk about whatever it is and even how he got to know you. So make sure that when we get to the recommendation letters, we are going to address all these stuffs. So for you fulfilling, for now, I will say that probably, I presume that you fulfill it, just that I'm not into a lot of information. So go ahead and file with 5 years of research and 3 years of research and 3 years teaching. I think that with 5 research papers, you should be good to go. I don't know your citation number levels yet, but I don't also think that citation should bar you from applying for this type of green card. So take note of that. Now, let me show. Okay, so it's a recording. Thank you. Yeah, so let's look at another Q&A. This is not a particular question, but this part, the person is like, I think your content is the best I've seen for EB2 national interest waiver. Do yourself, and I have watched this a lot. Thank you very much, our cherished viewer, wherever you send this one from. It's an encouragement and a motivation for us to continue giving our best. So thank you very much. So let's go to the agenda of today. The agenda of today is proving intrinsic merit. national importance, and even international importance. That's what we are going to look at for chapter 2. Chapter 2 is dedicated for intrinsic merit, national importance, and international importance, and also applicability of your research to the United States. But time may not permit us, but if time permits, we will get to that. But if time does not permit, we shall do a part 2 of this where we look at the applicability of the United States. So let's look at this. Now, before we go into the Word document in practice, national interest, proving national interest in practice, let us look at how to set up your research to the understanding of the officer. You see, this is a research. This person used, his endeavor was in research where he used microalgae to treat industrial wastewater and converting harvested algae into valuable products. That is his research topic. I think it's very complex than this, but for the filing purpose, he made his research topic very simple like this. And it's one of the clues and the tricks you will need, because you should be able to break down your research topic. Like I have said it before, if you go by the scientific, complex, technical ways, you put in too much technical ways. I didn't say that there shouldn't be any at all, but if you become very excessive, it makes the research officer difficult to understand your line of research. So this is the person's topic. And if we look at the person's topic, we are going to tear it apart to see where he's fitting in society, the merit of the research that he does. So he used microalgae to treat industrial wastewater and convert the harvested algae into valuable products. That's his research topic. Now, if we look at this side, pollution prevention is one merit of his research. What is he doing? He is treating wastewater before discharging them into water bodies. So he is preventing pollution of water bodies. That's one major merit of his research. And it doesn't end there. What else does his research give to society? Remember that he is converting the harvested algae into valuable products. Now, this is what happened. Let me explain his research in brief. When you have wastewater, it's a polluted water. And when you apply microalgae or algae, any green filamentous algae to it, the algae is like plant species. And in the presence of sunlight, is capable of absorbing nutrients, which we call pollutants. Excessive nitrogen and phosphorus in the water is called the nutrients, or you can say in layman's language, the pollutants. So the algae absorb this as nutrients and use it to grow. So as the algae absorb these nutrients, it's cleaning the water. That is the process in brief. So you see that when this person treats it, he's treating the water, he's preventing pollution. The second thing he's doing is that he composed the algae to biofertilizer. When the algae grows, he's able to kind of collect the algae mass and compost it into biofertilizer. So the first one we saw, pollution prevention. Which area is it is it helping? It's helping in the environment. It's helping water bodies. It's helping to avoid pollution in water bodies or the Great Lakes or whatever water bodies that the United States has. Now, if you look at this side, composting algae to biofertilizer, and then that means you can make a biofertilizer out of it, which is going to help the U.S. agricultural sector as a whole, so that we can wean ourselves away from chemical fertilizers, which impact or negatively impact human health. So you see that with this one, it's also going to help the upgrade part. Now, if you look at this one, medicinal purpose, you see, when we have edible algae, something like spirulina, most of algae have been found to contain antioxidants, and antioxidant is a very serious anti-cancer agent. So to fight cancer, most people also at times use antioxidants. And now we have even algae tablets. You can go to pharmaceutical shops and get algae tablets, where these algae are molded into tablets, and or at times it can be in the syrup form, whatever way you want it. So you see that in medicine, in pharmaceuticals, we are also having a benefit of this algae. Now, when you come to this side, biofuel, of course, when the algae grow, they store fat in their tissues, and this fat can be extracted and taken through a high temperature thermal liquefaction process to produce biofuel. And biofuel, like any fuel, like your gas, you take your diesel, your petrol, biofuel can be used to run engines. So take note of that. And bioethanol is just in common language is alcohol. And bioethanol is also very important. So you see that right now, the United States is demanding a lot on corn. There's a huge demand on corn to produce bioethanol for the United States. And if this algae is able to cut down the reliance on corn, is going to save the prices, not letting corn prices go up. It's going to actually reduce the price of food, because this is why you have energy competing with food, therefore driving the price of corn up. So you see that in the economical terms, even there is a benefit here, because when the algae is being converted to bioethanol, it's going to ease the pressure on corn, which will drive the food prices down. Another benefit gain here right now. So you see, and also biogas. Biogas can also be obtained from algae. In fact, research has shown that when you add algae to other organic waste and put it in the biodigester, it produces a lot of methane. It increased the methane production by about 25%. So that is also another energy benefit from the algae. So you see that it's protecting the environment, it's helping the agri sector, it's helping in the health sector. Its research is also having some part cutting across energy also. And if you look at this side, climate-friendly clean energy and CO2 reduction. So you see that another thing is that this is a clean energy. Therefore, we are fighting climate change. Now everybody's crying about climate change. So another merit of his research is his ability to reduce the risk of climate. So climate change. So that is also borders on the environment. Now in aviation, there are research which are trying to use algae fuel into powering jet engines. So certain aviation companies are beginning to go into using jet fuel. In fact, there have been initial trials where first flight was that flew from California to Florida or something like that. Yeah, so you see that there's a huge research, a huge benefit with this kind of research that a person can document for national interest waiver. Before we go into how he documented it, I want you to understand his research, how it cuts across multiple areas, and how you can also tear your research apart into multiple areas, so that when you are filing the national interest intrinsic merit area, it becomes quite a bit easier for you. So let's look at it. And also saves money. Yes, industries, let's say industry, manufacturing industry, or whatever it is that produce the wastewater, when they haul their wastewater to wastewater treatment plants, I mean conventional wastewater treatment systems, they charge them, they have to pay for it, depending on the volumes of wastewater you are discharging. So with this, it's going to also save these industries or companies money by building an on-site treatment system where they can treat their own wastewater and discharge the water into water bodies after the pollutant levels are reduced to acceptable limits. So this is the person's research. And you see that we have been able to get about 6 benefits surrounding his research, which can benefit the United States. So let us, at this moment, go into the Word documents and look at how we can do this thing. Okay, so 1 minute, please. Okay, so this is the Word documents, chapter 2, substantial merits, national, international importance, and applicability to the United States. That is how you're going to frame your chapter 2. But that is what it should be addressing. By the time you finish chapter 2, you should have addressed all these parts or components in your petition. Now, let's look at line 1. What is he trying to say? He says that I'm an environmental bioremediation scientist, and my research includes water quality assessments, remediation techniques using microalgae, especially involving heavy metals, phosphates, and nitrates, which are major drivers that cause algal blooms. Algal blooms are just when you don't treat or remove the nutrients or pollutants from the water. With time, you see a whole mass of green algae growing on the water and making the water very unpleasant or destroying its aesthetic value. So that is it. It says that I am focusing on 3 important areas which are crucial to the US economy. Agricultural wastewater assessment. He assessed the pollution level in the water. the application of algae treatment technology to remove pollutants from the industrial waste water, which prevents pollution to US waters. And the last thing he does is that conversion of algae biomass to bioenergy and products for sustainability purposes. Exhibits, thesis, abstracts. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about this first paragraph a bit. Now, what is he trying to do here? He's trying to introduce his professional designation to the officer. What he does, okay? So that is across 3 areas. Assessment of the agricultural wastewater. Then he does what? He applies microalgae to treat it. After that, he harvests microalgae to get valuable products out of it. And he added an exhibit, which is exhibit of abstract thesis. Yes, your abstract of your thesis or your research or whatever it is can also be an exhibit. Yeah, you can turn it in as an exhibit. Yeah, so if you're a research student. Now, at this paragraph, if you are not in research and you are in a professional field, also you can equally write it to tell the officer what you do. Let's say you are into cybersecurity. So when you are into cybersecurity, what do? You can say that you are a cybersecurity professional and your job cuts across doing this, doing that, and doing this. So I can't tell them you actually have to know what you do on your job, list them as we did in the previous slide. So that is what your job is. Let's say you're a cybersecurity. Explain that to the research officer. And whatever evidence you have, it could be your employment letter, it could be a part of your LinkedIn profile, whatever it is, it can be an exhibit. So take note of that. Now, then he came to, yeah, so let me talk about the exhibit once again. Exhibit 2.1, thesis abstracts. The USCIS doesn't want you to send your entire thesis to them. No. In fact, they are saying that your abstract will do, or if you are referencing some parts or portion of your thesis, that particular page, which is important or contains that statement, will also do. So it's not about printing your entire volume of thesis and sending it to USCIS. They don't need your entire volume of thesis that you have done. So take note of that. And one thing I want to say is that with this part, the line 1 to line 7, if you are a if you are a working professional, beside your working professional, let's say you have a master's degree, or if you are the undergraduate, you did some project which relates to your work you are doing right now, don't be afraid to add it because it's just show a transition from academia into your work area. Okay, so cybersecurity, or maybe you study cybersecurity, or you are into artificial intelligence, or you study artificial intelligence, whatever it is, maybe at the master's level, you have a master's degree, you did a project, you didn't do research, you didn't do thesis, by a project, you are free to also say what you did in your project and add to whatever endeavor you are talking about, if it relates to your current job right now. So take note of that, not only for research, but professional fields. You can equally use this part to address your professional designation and whatever projects you have worked on. Let me put it that way. Even at the job area, I know you do projects. So take note of that. Now, 2.1, introduction to algae treatment technology. Now, this is where this applicant is zooming in much into his research and explaining it further to the visa officer. So you see that what he's saying is, 70 years ago, the sight of green filamentous macroalgae growing at workplaces near our homes or structures were considered an environmental nuisance. Yes, at first we didn't regard algae as anything important. Not recently that the global scientific community realized the power of algae, both macro and micro, to clean industrial wastewaters, okay, to clean industrial wastewaters. Microalgae can utilize pollutants like phosphates and nitrates and heavy metals in wastewater as nutrients for growth under certain control conditions, which requires specialized skills. Let me highlight this part. Specialized skill sets tested and polished over time. I've been talking about using very marketable ways, specialized skills. You see, what part of national interest waiver, you are proving yourself as exceptional, and you don't want to use just common words. Specialized skills is a good phrase in using at this particular moment to sell yourself that you possess a specialized skills unlike much higher than ordinary people or peers in your field. And let's continue. So that the interesting part is that as water is recycled, the algae accumulate oils and sugars in their tissue during growth, which makes them suitable as raw materials for various biofuels like biodiesel and bioethanol, respectively. So you see, he is explaining his endeavor. That is what I said. I dedicate, even I said one paragraph. It can go beyond one paragraph, because this is about 1.5 pages or so. Yeah. So it doesn't hurt giving out 1 page or 1.5 page to explain your research to the visa officer. That's why I said introduction to RG treatment technology. It could be introduction to cybersecurity. It can be introduction to whatever field you are finding yourself, whatever research niche or whatever occupational niche you find yourself in. So take note of that. There are times you mention your job title or your job occupation. It's not clear to people until you explain to them what you do at your workplace. So this part, instead of maybe using it to me or the applicant using it to describe his research, this part you are going to use it to describe your job title, why you do your job, and its merits. Okay, it's merit. Because all this thing is talking about the merit, why he is treating it. So let's take note of that. The few experts in the field of algae remediation technology are searching in waters, soils, crevices, and other hostile environments like mining waste to look for robust species for use in treatment projects. So this is talking about his research importance of algae in treating wastewater. Now let's look at line 18. Wastewater treatment with microalgae is not a definite, straightforward procedure, but one that requires repeated feasibility studies, insight into algae biology, and constant monitoring and versatility in the use of ultramodern laboratory devices. You see that exceptional abilities, we have not even begun to touch that area yet. But even as he's describing his research, he is trying to click the button on exceptional ability. Why? Because he's trying to project the field as a very complex field, which requires a whole lot of feasibility studies and insight into algae biology, and also constant monitoring, versatility on the use of ultramodern laboratory devices. These are exceptional ability skills. That's why when I was talking about exceptional ability in the previous videos, I talk about even parts of your research, things you do, laboratory equipment you use, programs you run, are all part of the exceptional ability process. So let's say you are computer science building algorithm. Here is the point to talk about how the complex and difficult your work is, and as this person is projecting right now. You say, first and foremost, seed cultures from various strains of the algae are grown in smaller vessels in the lab under specific conditions using synthetic nutrients like Bristol salts. So there's initial culturing that goes on in the lab, and this is followed by further scaling up to higher volumes until they are finally applied to wastewaters to absorb nutrients and pollutants from it. The entire process is pH, temperature, light, and oxygen sensitive. Therefore, these factors must be constantly monitored during the treatment process. So he is still explaining his field of endeavor to the research officer. Now, when you dedicate time to do this, any other successive chapters you are talking about become more familiar to the research officer, because at this moment he knows what you do. Yeah, he knows what you do. So that is why the introductory part of your profession or the introductory part of your research is very important. It's very germane at this particular moment. Now, let's look at what he further said. Now, one thing I also want to draw your attention to is that you see how he has highlighted certain important phrases. That is one way of drawing the visa officer attention to important things you want him to see. So whenever you are drawing, it's one of the skills you should be using. Whenever there are phrases you want to highlight that you want to see, you can highlight them in bold. At times, sometimes people print out this thing. They also use maybe markers, like yellow colored markers, to mark certain statements which you want the visa officer's attention to go to, which are all ways of controlling the visa officer's thoughts, process, and also impressing him to try and give you that green card. So take note of that. Now, if we look at this part, he said that phase 2 of the technology explores harvested biomass for various biofuels. At this stage, exceptional knowledge in organic and inorganic chemistry, spectrometry, and thin layer chromatography is a strict requirement. So you see, he is trying to use this moment to still try and click the button on exceptional abilities, things that he has acquired, which is helping him do his job. We will go to exceptional ability, and he's going to develop each of these skills into detail as we go into chapter 5 or whatever it is, documenting exceptional abilities. So, but for here, he is talking and explaining his research to the visa officer. So he is only highlighting things which goes into his field of endeavor. That is it. Now, he says that line 21, Not all, like 29, not only can we explore algae biomass for wastewater treatment and biofuels to improve US waters, but the interest of pharmaceutical industries in edible strains like spirulina, chlorella species has also risen of late. Edible algae are a good source of antioxidants. I talk about it. That's why initially I took time to explain his research to you. Edible strains are a good source of antioxidants for cancer treatment and the potency to reduce obesity and hypertension if grown under hygienic conditions. Yeah, so if you are able to culture this algae to treat the wastewater, now you can harvest the algae and maybe expose it through autoclave or whatever it is to kind of sterilize it to kill any kind of harmful microbial organisms in it and use it as antioxidant for medicinal purpose. It's going to also help improve the health of US citizens, which I talk about. One merit of the research was improving the health of US citizens. So take note of that. It says that the process of algae biomass into biofertilizer for agricultural purpose is also an added advantage. So he's talking also about agriculture here. So if you look at line 29 to line 35, he's also highlighting a bit of the national interest. And this is just a transitional paragraph to talk about national interest, which will be going next. So it's just a writing skill trying to talk about his research, things that he needs to carry out his job, the skills that he needs, and now he's talking about even the outcome of his work, how it's going to impact American citizens' life, the agricultural field, the biofuel field, and whatever it is. So you see that I said that in summary, polluted water is recycled. The watershed is protected from the environment or from pollution, and valuable co-products are obtained from the algae for the good of the environment and human health. So you see that this whole thing he wrote is an introduction, 2.1, line 8 to line 35. He is introducing the visa officer to his research, what he does, some methods he uses, and the outcome of it. You see, it's like writing a thesis, the abstract of your thesis. Whenever you do research and you want to publish it, there's an abstract portion. And the abstract is just a highlight of whatever have gone detailed into your thesis. So that is the exact technique the person used here. So that's when somebody pick your highlights or your abstract, he's able to tell your introduction from it. He knows your objectives. He knows some methods you use. And then he knows the importance of the research you did, all in the abstract. And this is a typical example of it, as you can find here. At this moment, I want us to look at national and international interests and scope. National and international interests and scope. Yes, I want us to look at this one very well. Now, when we say national importance, it's interchangeable with national interest. Some will say national interest, some will also say national importance. The first one we talked about was the introduction of his field and the merits, why he does what he does. Now, this one, he is coming to look at the United States. What is going on in the United States that borders on his research? The national importance is what is going on. The US applicability is how his research is going to solve specific problems. So when we get that, there are two different things. National importance is right now you are doing your research in whatever world or part of the world you are. How is your research that you are doing very important to the US? And how do we find out? At I'm reading about your research relating to news relating to the United States. What is happening in the United States? What government laboratories are doing what government funding is going on related to your research in the United States? That is how we document the national importance. So if you look at this, how do you come about some of these things? And at this moment, I want us to bit of pause with this part. We will come back to it and go back and look at how we can document something like that. So if you look at this part, I want to kind of take something like this. Yes. Oh. Okay, so let's say okay, let me take this one. Okay, so let's say you want to find out areas in the US where your project or your profession or your research actually, what is going on relating to your research. So with this field, let's look at some kind of how you go about searching search. Google is a whole resource of a whole lot of stuff there. And let's look at, let's say, RG importance, or let's say RG importance, RG research news in the US. Let me put it this way: RG research news. Let's look at something like this. So if you look at this, there are a whole lot of news articles which pops up when you begin to look at some of these things. And you may want to take news, first of all, prioritize news from government websites, because the officer cannot doubt when his own government is supporting things relating to your research, which is a very strong evidence. So if you come here, let's look at some of the things we can click and look at. Let me try and look at this news and see what we can get it out from there. Okay, so if you look at this, say that with NERELS, which is the National Renewable Energy Laboratory Lab in the US, feedstock research, RG and garbage could be ingredients for zero emission fuels of the future. So he's talking about a whole kind of US government lab which is pumping money into RG research. And I think this particular part even makes a lot of sense. It's that the National Renewable Energy is helping unlock the full potential of US feedstock supply after receiving $2 million from the US Department of Energy and Bioenergy Technologies. So the projects, what is the projects being used for? It said RG and municipal sewage wastewater have unique potential as biofuel feedstocks, carbon sequestration, and broad waste reduction. So you see that the whole government is pumping about $2 million into a research like this. Then that makes it very credible and very important to the United States. Nobody finds a useless area of endeavor. So somebody will come print this news and even just use a marker and kind of highlight this to the visa officer and say that, see, this has a whole lot of merit. In the US, this is what is going on. And the whole government sector is sponsoring or funding a $2 million research in this field. Okay, so this can be one. There are a lot of news you can cite. You can also find another one. Let's try and find another one. Or you can even refine your search. RG to biofuel research. So this is the time you have to be using your research skills to be searching government websites. So we have gotten one from NEREL, biofuels from RG, challenges and potential. Okay, stop trying to, okay. Department of Energy, Advanced Agile Systems. This is US Department of Energy. And whenever you have evidence from US Department of Energy saying that this guy's research is very important, we are doing it and we need it, who is the visa officer to turn you down? Let's look at what we can find in there. Things you can find very good, incredible information in, you get it. Things which you think is not important, you just put it somewhere. So this is what is happening. The Bioenergy Technology Office, Advanced Agile System Program, supports research and development to lower the cost of producing agri fuels and bioproducts. So you see, there's another government office, the Department of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. And such government articles which support your research is very, very important. So take note of that. So here's where the whole government sector have dedicated a whole landmass. And I see that even there are some research where they dedicate a whole land equivalent to about a tiny state like Connecticut to cultivate algae. So that is one thing you have to take note of, a whole government research supporting it and highlighting certain information in such articles. So you might want to print this article as your evidence and highlight potential information in it which is very pleasing to you, or which you think will be pleasing to the officer. So that is one way we gather evidence for national interest. I can go on and on and on. There are about 5,000 such results which this one will yield. Some also will yield, I've talked about NIREL, the same thing they have been doing. If it's not enough, you can go further and look at other articles. Algae biofuel, the long route commercial viability. Biofuels from algae plagued with problems. Yes, you can print this and say that because there are problems, there are shortage of professionals, there's not enough breakthrough into this field. So that is also one thing that you may want to print it out. Artificial intelligence predicts algae potential as biofuel. The scope of algae as third generation fuel. Frontiers also a very credible source. You see, you don't want to print from individual blogs, print from article websites, New York Times, Scientific America, the Bloomberg, whatever it is, all talking about algae, and that makes your research, that makes your evidence very credible. If you get something from ExxonMobil is a very big energy company, and when they publish something like that, it's also very credible to the visa officer. So these are various ways of searching for items related to your research field. So that is it. Let's say you are into refugee studies and migration crisis as a study that you are doing. So you can begin to type migration crisis in the US. Migration and refugee crisis in the US. Of course, you know that with the Texas border and the southern border, there is a whole lot of immigration crisis going on there, which makes you, whatever field you are in relating to immigration and refugee studies, very noble and very, very needed in the United States. So I know that by this time, by the time we finish with this, you'll be able to go to Google and type related news relating to your research and be able to use that to document your national interest at this moment. So that is what I wanted to draw your attention to. So at this moment, I want us to go back and look at our Word documents as we were doing. So if we look at our Word documents, that is it. If you look at it, so where did we get to? We came to the national and international interest and scope. And what is the person doing here? You can see that he has written a whole lot of news articles which are going on in government departments, their department websites, news websites relating to government entities, business entities, all projecting algae for biofuel as a potential economic value of national interest. So the more governments are doing about it, the more companies are writing about it, it makes the US national interest very strong. So let's look at this. It said that the US Department of Energy, through its nationwide laboratory, is actively pumping funds into algae research, cultivation, and extraction of carbohydrates for bioethanol, which will ease the energy versus food competition on corn production in the US food markets. That is one national interest article he took from what? From NIREL, which is the National Renewable Energy Lab, in its publication. He says that the National Renewable Energy Lab of the US Department of Energy, Colorado, in its publication clarifies why fundamental understanding of algae biology and biomass composition will help develop superior bioenergy algae strains. Exhibit, NIREL, public, the one he printed out, that is his exhibit. So he took this statement even from that printed out version and put it here to support his argument. It's very important that at times you do some of this. And it doesn't also hurt if you can take quotes from your recommendation letter to actually support this particular moment where your recommender says that your field is of heightened interest in the United States because so and so is going on in so and so states. So take note of that. Now, let's look at another article he took, the Sandia National Laboratory. So you see that various national laboratories are researching into algae and they have received huge funds to go into this. The Sandia National Laboratory with algae research test beds in California and New Mexico has gone a step further in growing a polyculture algae in open ponds, raceway test beds for large-scale research and development purpose. On this project, the lab clarified that microalgae is an ideal feedstock for several reasons. Why? Because it consumes CO2 and pollutants as nutrients, grow on unpaired waters, and land not used for crop production and yield fuel higher than the comparable land-based feedstock. So you see that he said the algae is of very major importance because it grows on water which nobody needs. So there's a excessive amount of raw water needed for its cultivation, and it consumes CO2 and pollutants. And what does it do again? It also helps to your land economy. For instance, corn, which should have been grown for bioethanol, taking a huge vast of land, you don't need that. You need just some small area to be able to cultivate equivalent amount to yield that amount that you can get from corn. So land economy, even in terms of land economy, there's a huge importance or merit for that, as you can see here. So he has documented this from Sandia National Laboratory. And he further went ahead to say that the use of the algae treatment technology hinges on an array of growth techniques and algae biology, which can be successfully met by a specialized, well-trained person like me. So this is one that was not from the news. This one was his own words to support whatever he got from the news. You see how he sold himself, a specialized, well-trained expert like me. So he said that without him, algae research, it will die in the United States. Without him, the United States cannot harness the full potential from algae. And that is one way of documenting the national importance and the national interest. So that is it. Then he didn't end there. He has taken article from Nirel. He has taken article from Sandia. He went again and took article from Agenor. Agenor is a Florida-based company based in Fort Myers in Florida. And they are also into huge algae farms where they utilize this algae for biofuel. So let's look at it. He said that Agenor, an algae biotechnology company based in Fort Myers, is actively into large-scale algae farm, utilizing our unique biomass cultivation techniques to cultivate algae and extract valuable products for the US markets. The company uses semi-treated water for conventional wastewater treatment plants for the Fort Myers area and grow algae under sanitized conditions. It uses hydrothermal liquefaction to extract lipids for algae for biofuel. It also extracts natural colorants from the algae for food and beverage and other cosmetic industry to replace the unhealthy synthetic dyes used in food additives. So it's going to help improve the health of US citizens. Okay, so you see that what Fort Myers, the Agenor company Fort Myers is doing is further reinforcing the need of his skills in the US. At this moment, he's not even talking about his research, how it's going to solve problems in the US. He's talking about what is already going on in the US that relates to his field. Therefore, his field is important. That is how you are demonstrating national importance at this particular moment. Printing news articles from government sites, printing news articles from reputable companies, which all reinforce your field or your profession is very important at this stage. So take note of that. And one thing I want to draw your attention to is that whenever you are documenting national interest, don't limit to one geographical area. You don't want to pick your national interest from one state, or one city in New York is doing this, or another city in New York is doing this, or this city in Western New York is doing it. No, you shouldn't want your national interest. That's why I say national. They didn't say state interest. So try and pick news article which is citing from various states. From Colorado, from the south, you go to Montana in the north, then you go to California in the west, then you are coming to New Jersey in the east coast. So try and spread your national interest articles you'll be using here across the US. That's one trick of it, to avoid RFE, so that the officer will not ask, okay, apart from New York, where other areas can your national interest apply? So take note of that. Now we have talked about Sandia National Laboratory. Now we have talked about Agenor. Now let's look at another article he printed. Now this one from the US Department of Agriculture, another United States Department website he's taking this from. So on April 2016, the United States Department of Agriculture, through the Hawaii Department of Agriculture, partnered US DOE for a project to grow algae on waste papaya juice and harvest the biomass for biofertilizers and biofuel resources. So you see the research when I was tearing it apart, I made mention of biofertilizers and biofuel resources. The main goal of this idea is to achieve a zero waste and reduce food waste from going to the landfill. The project won grant of $1.6 million for scale up. Who funds a useless research? Nobody. Okay, so bringing some of these amounts that government pumping into such areas is also very important in reinforcing your national interest idea. So take note. In the statement of plant pathologist, Lisa Keith of the Tropical Plants Genetic Resource and Disease Research Unit, this is what Lisa said. He said that the goal of the zero waste approach is to make agriculture more profitable and to address food and energy security issues in Hawaii. So this statement was directly taken from the article, but he printed the whole article and exhibited it as Exhibit 2.5 USDA article release. Okay, so that is how we document national interest. Don't let any lawyer tell you, oh, your field doesn't have any national interest in the US. He doesn't understand your field. Go to Google, search your field, search for areas or things happening in the US which borders on your area or your profession, and print them out and use those ideas to build your national interest argument. Because nobody talk about useless stuff in the US. In fact, nobody have time to talk about useless stuff. And I can assure you that in the US, a whole lot of things go on. That no matter which field you are, you'll be able to get government articles, government websites releases supporting your area. Like somebody I was dealing with, a person is into refugee and immigration crisis. And I said, go to the Department of Human Resource, Department of Human Services. It's a whole department in the United States dedicated for the social sciences, immigration issues, policy issues. You will get a whole lot. And he was amazed as to how many articles he was able to withdraw from that area. So you see that it's a whole lot of things that you can get, depending on your field of endeavor. Depending, let's say you are into transportation engineering. The US Department of Transportation is your major area you will be looking at. So you see, every endeavor has their own department they'll be dealing with or be taking news from. There are these news when you go to US EPA, you can equally get RG research and RG stuffs which are listed by the US EPA. So there are a lot. You can't go through all the list. There are a lot that you can get to support your national interest ideas. So that is it. Now let's pay attention to line 65. If you look at line 65, now he said that the Civil Aviation Administration of China, you see that we talk about national interest and international. So at some point, you may want to fit in some 1 or 2 articles addressing international scope also, because you don't want your research to really be limited to the US nation. You want to also even project that out of the US, other people have seen, globally, people have seen the importance and they are equally working on it. So you see that he said that on September 2010, the Civil Aviation Administration of China, in partnership with the Boeing Energy Company in the US, signed a memorandum of understanding to invest into RG research jointly to develop jet fuel from RG biofuels. Okay, yeah, from RG biofuels. The CO2 emissions from various Chinese airlines have soared in recent times, and this has moved the 2 aviation giants to explore a cleaner fuel to power jet engines, as reported by Asia Biomass. So you see that he picked this news from an Asia article that the Civil Aviation Authority of China is working with the Boeing industry in the US to use RG biofuel to power some jet engines, which will reduce climate change and reduce jet emissions, which also causes climate change. So take note of that. And he took some quotes out of this article to support whatever he was saying and marked it as Exhibit 2.6. That is how he went out of the US to the global space. So at this moment, you can really tell that this person has well documented his national interest and even international interest. So you see that he introduced his research and talked about the merit of his research, then came to the national importance, what is going on in the US that relates to his field, and also what is going on out of the US, which also still borders on his field. At this moment, you may also want to look at your field. Go to Google, read about your field and US news relating to your field, and know what is going on in the US that has to do with your field. Is it genetic engineering? Is it COVID-19 that you are doing working in relation to? Is it mechanical engineering? Is it structural engineering? Whatever field you find yourself in, or research you are finding yourself in, or professional occupation you find yourself in, try and find news articles in the US which is addressing shortages in your field or addressing interest where the US is pumping funds into it in your field, which is going to make your national interest arguments very solid and very convincing. That is what I'm going to leave you for today. Now, next week, I'm going to address the part B of this, which is applicability of to the United States, where we are actually going to see how this person's research is going to solve specific problems in the United States. It's very much important that at times you identify problems in the US where your field of endeavor is going to solve. So with that point, you realize that you are moved from the national interest, and you are talking about applicability of your research to the US nation. There are two different things: national interest, research news going on in US relating to your field, what people are already doing. It's like literature review, let me put it that way. What people are already doing in your field, that's the national interest. Applicability is how your research is going to fit in to solve specific issues in the US. By the time you document that, then that means you are proving your merit and the national interest aspects after your advanced degree. That means you are almost 50% through to your filing process. At this moment, I'm going to leave you here, and I'm going to see you same time next week. Please subscribe if you have not subscribed. Share also if you have not shared. Subscribe to the channel, as we are going to roll out a lot of information which is going to help you in your filing process. Yeah, don't be afraid to take phrases like this or structures like this and structure your own to also fit the national interest. Next week, we are going to look at applicability of this field of endeavor to the US itself, how he singled out certain problems in the US to solve. So I'll see you same time next week. Enjoy yourself and enjoy the summer. Have a very fruitful week as I see you next week. Bye-bye.